It's 1:53, and would like to call this meeting to order. And we'll begin with the roll call of commission members. Commissioner Rubin. Present. Commissioner Ponce. Present. And Commissioner Fair.
Present.
Present. And I am here. We have a quorum. I'd like to begin with a motion, to request a motion to approve the minutes from the April 3rd, 2025 meeting. Commissioner Ponce has made a motion, seconded by Commissioner Rubin and Commissioner Fair.
Yes.
Yes, I'm a yes. And the minutes, the motion carries unanimously and the minutes will be posted on the commission's website. There are 5 projects on the agenda for today's meeting. 2 of these projects, item number 1 at 141 West Jackson and item number 5 at 10162 South Longwood, have been postponed to a future meeting at the request of the property owners. So staff of the commission will present the 3 projects on the agenda, remaining projects on the agenda, and state their recommendation. Following the staff presentation, the committee will have an opportunity to ask questions of the staff. The applicant may then make their statement. Following the applicant's statements, members of the public may make their statements. I'd like to ask anyone other than the applicant wishing to make a statement on today's agenda, any item on today's agenda, to complete a public comment card and give the card to a member of the staff. Comment cards are available at the door. As a courtesy to other individuals wishing to offer comments, we ask that members of the general public limit your statements to 3 minutes or less. When the time comes for public comment on the item on the agenda, I will call the names on the cards and ask you to make your statement. Please state your name, interest, organization, or company you represent, if any. Our first project will be 3101 West Palmer in the first ward in the Logan Boulevard district. We are looking at the proposed 3-story rear addition to an existing masonry 2-story residential building on a corner lot. And I'd like to call on Emily Barton for the staff report.
Thank you very much. So, subject property is a masonry 2-flat located at the corner of Palmer Boulevard and Albany Avenue. The building is considered to be contributing to the district and was constructed in 1908. The project applicants purchased the property earlier this year and are proposing to renovate the building with 3 rental units and an additional owner-occupied unit. The existing house is approximately 63 feet 2 inches in length, with a rear yard extending an additional 47 feet between the end of the house and the existing garage. As this building sits on the corner of Palmer and Albany, the side, also east, elevation is highly visible. To better utilize this space, the applicant's proposing to remove the existing non-historic rear frame enclosed porch and replace it with a new 3-story rear addition. The new addition is proposed to be located entirely behind the footprint of the existing house, approximately 24 feet 10 inches wide by 34 foot 6 inch in length. The addition includes a connecting hyphen, which is 5 foot 4 inches wide and inset just under 2.5 feet, separating the new construction from the existing building. The addition has been designed to read as a contemporary take on the masonry buildings throughout the district. The new windows approximate the proportions of those on the front building, with masonry sills as opposed to the limestone found on the front. The entry up to the building off Albany Avenue is proposed to be recessed inward and clad in a buff-toned brick, separate from the predominant masonry color. The first 2 levels are proposed to be clad in a Norman-sized brick, closely matching the color and coursing of the front building. Projecting bands in the masonry coursing on the first level approximate the height of the limestone string course on the existing building. The top floor is proposed to be clad in a non-reflective metal cladding, and this piece references the metal cornices found throughout the district. The color will be a warm tone compatible with the masonry below. The hyphen connecting the 2 structures, which you can see circled in green, is proposed to be clad in a smooth fiber cement panels in a dark color, further emphasizing the transition between the historic and new construction. Staff recommend that this contemporary design is compatible within the district while still reading as differentiated from the existing historic structure, and that material samples should be included with the permit application. The historic house at the front of the lot is 2.5 stories tall, with the top of the cornice at 30 feet 9 inches. The proposed height of the new addition is 34 feet 4 inches. This is 3.5 feet taller than the front structure. Commission guidelines state that additions will be allowed only if they do not alter, change, obscure, damage, or destroy any significant features of the landmark or district. Of particular concern are the effects of an addition on a building's historic relationship to its site and on a building's size, shape, and roof line. Additions should not overwhelm the historic building that they are attached to. The committee has reviewed similar proposals before, where a rear addition is located behind a front structure on a corner lot. And in all of these cases, including one in the district, Logan Square District at 2256 North Kedzie, the heights of the rear addition either matched the height of the roof line of the building in front or were shorter. As proposed, the first story of the new building sits 1.5 feet above grade. The floor to ceiling heights of the 3 levels range from 8'6" to 9'10". To reduce the overall height of the addition to match that of the front structure, as is consistent with commission guidelines and all previous approvals, staff recommend that the foundation height or ceiling heights be adjusted so that the top of the parapet is no higher than 30 feet 9 inches. Along with the rear addition, rehab work of the building is also proposed. Masonry will be repaired and cleaned as needed, with the pressed metal cornice repaired in place. The windows are all proposed to be replaced with new Marvin Elevate aluminum-clad double-hung windows. The porch is proposed to remain, with the wood porch columns repaired and replaced in kind if necessary. There's an existing garage at the rear of the property, and that is proposed to just remain as is. So staff recommend that details of the replacement windows and brick mold profiles be submitted with the permit application and recommends approval of the project as a whole with the following conditions. The proposal should be modified to lower the height of the proposed addition, shown 3.5 feet taller than the historic building, to not exceed the height of the existing building, to read as secondary to and not overwhelm the historic structure. This may be achieved by lowering the height of each floor or reducing the height of the building foundation. As proposed, new windows will be aluminum-clad double-hung with details submitted with permit application, and material samples shall also be submitted with permit application. Logan Square Preservation and Alderman LaSpada are in support of the project. A letter from Logan Square Preservation was included in your packet last week. And a letter we just received from the alderman was included with your agenda at your places. And the property owners / architects are here as well, and I think they would like to make their own presentation as well. I'm here if you have questions.
Thank you, Emily. Before we hear from the applicant, commissioners, any questions? All right, let's hear from the applicant.
Morning, everyone. My name is Cristina Gallo, and this is Marty Sandberg, and we're both the proud owner of this beautiful property, as well as the architect representing this proposed design. We are local neighbors to Logan Square. We live 2 blocks south from this site. We've been here for the last 5 years, caring for another older, beautiful building right on Armitage, with our architecture storefront on the ground floor and our apartment upstairs. And it's been this beautiful relationship that we've built over time in our network, in our neighborhood, where we know our neighbors, business owners. Our 2-year-old kiddo loves to play on Palmer Square with all of his new friends. And we were just so excited when this building came on the market, as we had previously, dreamt of someday being able to own, care, and live in a building on the boulevard. But with that comes its challenges, and of course, our profession allows us to really think outside the box and imagine how can we make these dreams happen and how can we think creatively for this proposal today.
Yeah, it's that corner condition, that's the exact reason that we're here today, is exactly what made our eyes pop when this building became available, because corners present architectural and urban planning opportunities that you can't find elsewhere, especially in a neighborhood like ours that is very publicly struggling with the loss of housing units. It presents an opportunity with an extra deep lot here as well to insert an addition at the rear with a relatively tight footprint that necessitates 3 levels to be able to present enough livable floor area to make an adequate living unit back there. As we do that, it naturally becomes slightly taller than the building towards the front.
We have already started the renovation process for the principal building, and we understand that renovating historic buildings takes a lot of care and attention and financial investment. We've completed a roof replacement recently and have submitted plans to carefully tuck point areas that hadn't been done so well over the last decades, replace the windows, as Emily mentioned, restore and reuse the existing wooden doors at the entryway, as well as restore and reutilize the beautiful wood front porch columns, very carefully clean the metal cornice across the front porch, as well as across the main building.
We've gone through a lot of work over the past few months, working with Emily and the staff, working with Logan Square Preservation. What you see today is not where this started. There's been a lot of progress and revisions and refinement and improvement getting to where we are today, which is a result that pulls from the bright reddish orange tones of the existing building, that works with that matching mortar color that's such a Logan Square trademark, very specific to our neighborhood. These elongated proportions of the window openings and the new element, and then also taking the most recognizable element of the historic structure, which is its cornice, and using that for inspiration as we extend towards the addition, where we take that and enlarge it and almost exaggerate it into this 3rd-story crown back here that's clad in an architectural metal, a very clear rhythm across, and create something that we think is a very natural continuation of the architectural story that began at the corner.
Yeah, so with this, we know that we are very proud of the addition that we're proposing, which fits right in with our neighborhood's character and proportion, and all of the high quality architecture that has made this district be recognized as a landmark as it has. And we would appreciate your consideration of our proposal as it is, as it's been presented. We want to address the height.
It is. I know the main topic here is the height difference. It's 3.5 feet taller than the existing structure, and we know it. We're not hiding from it. It's very visible at this corner, and we embrace that condition and the challenges that come with it. We've done everything we can to squeeze this down, to make this as tight as we can, to be efficient where we are on there. But we know how to work with historic buildings. We know the standards and guidelines. We know that the word height only appears in there when dealing with fences. Everything else relates to massing, scale, proportion, character, materiality, all of these things that we think are being executed very successfully here, especially with something that is a contributing building in an overall district. This is here as a part of the urban fabric of Palmer Square and the Boulevards district as a whole. It is not a sacred height limit on top of this. It is a building that feels very at home with its surroundings, and we think is a really strong example of how you can create new housing in a historic district in a very positive way.
So with that, we've been working carefully with Emily over the last 2-3 months with the landmark staff reviewers, of course. We've had multiple sessions with Logan Square Preservation, which added to and thoughtfully reviewed our proposal, and we included various changes. We significantly reduced the height from our past original submission onto this one, and have arrived at what we feel is the true market minimum for both how this building is situated on a lot that is elevated 1.5 feet in the rear yard, and how we're able to adequately place all of the levels accordingly, starting with a main level, which then shortens and reduces height as you go all the way up to an 8.5-foot ceiling in that upper story. So we've gone through major efforts to reduce the height of the building to the point that we feel that it's incredibly successful, but at its limit. And with that, we thank you very much for your time and consideration, and are very open to questions you may have.
Well, thank you. Hi, Christina. Hi, Marty. Thank you for the presentation. I think no, so it's a wonderful property. I think what your proposal is, bringing more density is a breath of fresh air, And with that, I want to, and also a handsome design, but I want to hear from the commissioners. Commissioners, any questions on the applicant?
Yeah, maybe just, some comments. For starters, I appreciate, just the excitement. And also just the understanding now, owner architect and, where we are now, I guess at this conversation. Just to make a note, I think about what you all were, maybe I was perceiving, some hesitation about just the guidance about the height. And, I think the biggest thing here is just the overall precedence for what that means, for the district. So I know we could go back and forth on what does height, mean. But just having looked at the sections in the building, I think, squeezing that in seems like it's, potential. I know, everybody wants to be able to get, as high as the ceiling height as possible. So I wonder if it's, both ideas or both options that were offered by, staff of, are you looking at lowering the foundation as well as, the floor to ceiling height within the building, if it's also, at the actual roof of the building too, if you can, whatever you can do to try to minimize that additional 3 feet. The other thing I would just throw out there, which is more just sort of a question, there were a few different material or images, I guess, for the standing seam roof, for the third floor there. Some of it really red, and then there was one image, I think, right here, the one immediately to the right of the rendering. That's kind of more of a muted tone. So just curious what, some of the thoughts are, what's the true direction. I think, you know, uh, there's definitely precedent in the neighborhood for kind of more of a bolder modern approach, but just wanted to hear you all's thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'll address the color first, saying color in renderings is tricky. And that's exactly
For
right.
sure.
We were looking for something that's a true color, but very much a bit more muted and kind of in tone with what you see from almost that powder blue cornice that's towards the front, looking for a complementary color. As far as the height at the back, we have been squeezing it. The 18-inch starting point at the back is because the grade of the backyard is about 18 inches above the sidewalk level. Our neighbors immediately to the west are actually another 6 to 8 inches above that. So we're on a rare Chicago hill here, which is where we've got that starting point at the back, starting at about 18 inches from there. We've already got the third floor down to an 8.5-foot ceiling height, which is shorter than the ceilings we're putting in a new affordable housing project that we're working on up at the Logan Square Blue Line right now. I understand the desire to try to push lower and lower on some of these, but at the same time, we don't want to create something that the next owner in 20 years is going to tear down and turn back into a single family home. We want this to be an attractive and desirable property within the neighborhood that is going to last for another 100 years here.
We also understand that scale of buildings and proportion is really relevant to the pedestrian experience, to the person who is seeing it within its urban context. I don't know, Emily, if you would mind putting the rendering where you can see it as a street view. And one of the beautiful lines that we were trying to create, it's one more in your presentation, so you could see the view from Palmer Square, where the building is shown in its true perspective versus this elevation, which is really tough to ever experience. But this is dead on accurate. We matched it to a photorealistic rendering, and this is the view as you approach Palmer Square, headed towards the building, where we were handling that height of the addition to not seem as if we were taller than the projection of the bay window, because one of the things that perspective gives you is that projection of the bay window does elongate the height of the principal building. So just being very mindful and being very careful with that line.
I guess just as one last item to address, I know you brought up the topic of precedent, which is always a hot button issue with anything in the preservation world. And we by no means are asking for a blank check here or saying that this should be what everyone is allowed to do. We know that there's some pretty intense safeguards in place specifically for corner lots just like this. And the process we've gone through to get to here And then to arrive at you guys who are sort of that final line of being able to interpret those guidelines and standards. We also know on Palmer Square Park in particular, there are 4 corner lots. The entire north side is a continuous block. There's no interruptions. So on the south side, we have four properties. One is a school, one is a 6-unit apartment building, and one is our immediate neighbor who is a 2-flat that is about 6 feet taller than we are. Those are the only conditions within this park and this section of the boulevards.
I just had just one question, not going, just curiosity. The back of the lot is 1 foot 6 up, but is there, and in the section, you don't show any steps from the grade, but in the rendering you do, and I was just curious, is trying to understand that first floor a little bit more? I was confused about that.
And I think that's true. The section is cutting through the rear yard where we would be level or a few inches up from the rear yard. The slope happens right about midpoint of the garage and comes crashing down pretty hard towards the sidewalk. So coming from the sidewalk towards the main entry, you would be going up a few steps. And then when you would come out the back of the building, you're level at that portion.
Thank you. Commissioner Ponce, did you want to say something?
Wanted to add, I also appreciate the excitement on this project and just it's apparent that really you have taken every moment to learn about your existing conditions, the surroundings. And we see that in the solution in that, you know, every square inch is planned and you can tell on the elevations and the perspectives and the scale, right? And fitting the solution within the parameters. And as far as materiality too, I think very careful thought was taken into blending it into what was there. And it looks like it just truly fits there, that, and it's something that will stay there for a very long time. So, you know, obviously working with Emily is always great, right? To reach those solutions and staying with those parameters. But as you said in the beginning, you can think out of the box. You have that capability to think out of the box and come up with this really nice addition to the boulevard.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I'll add on to the I want to say it's a really handsome project. And thinking in terms of precedents, I'm trying to balance out kind of the precedent of being able to develop onto the back of, you know, kind of our humble 2-flat and 3-flat properties to be able to extend like this. I mean, this is something I'd like to see happening more often throughout the city. And I'm reconciling that with the precedent of, you know, roof line height in a historic district, which, I mean, again, you're trying to maximize what you can. I think we're coming to something that looks like a decent compromise and looks like something that you'd be able to sell to somebody else in the future. I guess to add to the compliment, my question would be, sometimes when we get these, we'll see a model of what does the rest of the block look like in terms of roof height. Was that included in this packet as well? Like an analysis of kind of how high the roofs are in this area?
There is, we have a full block elevation that should be a part of the
There was
packet
one?
coming from Kedzie over
Okay.
to Albany. We're currently the shortest building on the block, and I believe even with this rear addition, we remain the shortest building on the block. It is primarily 3 flats and extra tall 2 flats. It's also an incredibly eclectic collection. It's part of the fun of Logan Square is it's very non-uniform.
Yeah. Okay. No, I had missed that in the packet. That's actually really helpful. Thank you for including that. No, I think that's it. I think you did a really nice job in designing this. I really like the addition quite a lot.
We do hope to inspire more people to think creatively on how to add more units rather than deconverting. There's a true targeted mission from the Department of Buildings and the City of Chicago to protect 2 flats, 3 flats, and multi-unit buildings in our neighborhood rather than deconverting. And we want to make sure that we're stewards of that and setting this beautiful example that goes beyond what we know aren't affordable examples, such as a coach house, which can be incredibly expensive and limiting. So we do want to show that it is possible to invest in landmark properties. It is worth investing in landmarks properties, and that yes, there are really tight rules and there's a lot of discussion and consideration, but we can arrive at something that's thoughtful and beautiful and appropriate.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions, commissioners, before we go to public comment?
Mm, In the recommendations, so at this point, are we looking to amend the recommendations as they are and consider a different route, a different height, or are we going based on are we voting yes or no on the recommendations that you already made?
A revised recommendation can be made, but yeah.
Okay.
But we should maybe hear the public comment first.
Let's go to the public comment and then maybe we'll discuss after that.
Thank you.
Any other final points before public comment then? Seeing none, let's hear, we have one person sign up to speak. We'll move to public comment. Mr. Ward Miller?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. For the record, Ward Miller, the Richard H. Treehouse Executive Director of the nonprofit group Preservation Chicago. We're honored to be here today, as you heard earlier in testimony on the extension of the Logan Boulevards District. We at Preservation Chicago and me personally, we're very much involved in the landmark designation of this district. The owners that you just heard from have been outreaching to not only Logan Square Preservation, our local community group, but also to us at Preservation Chicago, asking for our input and advice. I think they've come to a really amazing solution as an idea. We've been supporting those ideas. I know there's a difference in height here. I think you can resolve that, Commissioners, but wanted to again mention this has been sort of a ghost building for a long time. It's been vacant for quite a few years. It's on a corner location, and we have two individuals here, both very familiar with the architectural world, that have been wrestling with this idea of how to add on to a building for quite a bit of time. We want to support the idea of an addition to this building. You will determine heights, but this is really a wonderful project, and we hope to see it go through and reactivate a historic and vacant building that's part of our district. And just want to say that it's wonderful to see people so excited about a project. You don't see that every day, and to take on a historic building that has seen a lot of water damage and vacancy for a long time in a historic district suddenly become a working building again, housing families is really just wonderful. So we very much support this vision as a whole, and we'll leave the height issues to you, all of you. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Miller. No one else has signed up to speak on this item. So we will close public comment period and move back to our commission final discussion. Commissioners.
You're dealing with a historic district with a lot of eclectic building styles along the block with a lot of different roof lines. It's not maintaining a sense of uniformity the same way you would in perhaps a bungalow district. Leads me to be persuaded that insisting on a height be exactly the same or within 6 inches of the existing roof line might not be the most critical. But I'd be curious what other people think.
Yeah, I might be on the opposite side of this one. So I mean, I think, I understand the point about there not being uniformity across all the buildings. I think, we look specifically building to building and then what contributes. I think the anchor building, the building that's there, so 2 flat. So you've got like this puzzle now that you've got a elevation that's set by that vintage and type of building. And it just becomes a question there for where you've got, 3, stories above grade. How do you kind of remedy the 2? So I feel like there's still room for design. Like there's nothing that's in the ground just yet. If there's compromise, I wonder, is there modifications that happen to the cornice of the existing building that starts to maybe bridge, that height difference? I don't know. I'd have to look back at the drawings to the extent of how much that cornice is being modified. I think it's only just being cleaned up, but I do I do appreciate what it means to set a precedent. Uh, and if we were to diverge from that, you know, it's like a question of, you know, to what end? So it's, I don't, you know, for the owner architect, you know, no, it's not a, you know, something specific to the building. I think it's a question just about, in general, how do you handle this and the meaning behind that particular criteria or that requirement.
I guess, I guess I'll say, I don't, well, just one thing, I don't think we could modify the cornice of the other building, I'm not sure. But that's just.
Yeah. that was
Just
not-
curiosity, but,
Sorry.
We're in the deep end.
It's a difficult one because it is, like, really appreciate the project and really appreciate the design truly. What, you know, from an architecture standpoint, I think it's nice to look at, and I have concerns about the precedent part too. And then just thinking about, okay, well, maybe there's a compromise of reducing some floors, but it's probably, you know, to get it down to the 40, you know, 42 inches is going to be really tough. So I struggle with that. Like, I can see getting it down 30 inches, but then a compromise there is still a precedent. So I struggle with that.
Hypothetically, if this were mid-block and you weren't dealing with a whole exposed elevation on one side and the top floor had the dark metal cladding on it to kind of de-emphasize the additional height behind the building, would we be more persuaded to say, yeah, that's a treatment that works, it kind of de-emphasizes the additional height? Or would we be having the same conversation and saying it violates or it goes beyond an acceptable height?
So
Not to direct and just a response to that, Commissioner. So we also looked at that perspective if it was mid-block. We don't think that this would be an issue because I don't think you would see it. The question in front of you really right now is looking at the this as obviously it has its own context. You have to take its context into account. Does it have an adverse impact on the roof line of the building? And it's a question, do you feel that that is reached, or is it not really an adverse effect? That's really the basis for the decision.
thanks. I mean, I guess what I'd like to see is, you know, and I understand that it sounds like the elevation has already been reduced once, but, you know, I'd like to see the attempt made again, you know, to your point, Commissioner Rubin, you know, I think if we get to a point where, you know, we say, hey, this impact does not seem, you know, visually so significant, I think at that point, you know, that's where I think the difference of inches there is not so critical. But, you know, from where we've entered this, you know, point of review, I think that's just one thing I would like to see is, you know, cut the 910, you know, and then, you know, I hate to reduce that height because it seems like a nice height, but where can the shifting take place to try to shave off, you know, if it's 30 inches, if it's, you know.
6 is still a really good height, you know.
Yeah.
For living
Agree,
space.
agree. Yeah.
I mean, we're not ruling on whether to issue the permit or not. We're just being able to discuss if this would need to be sent back for another round of, see what's
What we've
possible.
done, right, and, you know, Deanna, on something like this is allowed, you know, maybe Commissioner Fair is saying that there should be could be further study and maybe interested in seeing that, to find that sweet spot. And could we say that could be reviewed at staff level with a commissioner assigned to it, or is that?
Yeah, I don't think that'd be something that would need to come back to us. I think
Yeah,
that could be
right.
done at the staff level, but Yeah, if we're at that stage, that sounds like a path forward to me.
I think that makes sense. That could work. I mean, it follows along the lines of the recommendations that the staff, has already made. Um, like I said before, just mostly looking for, the revised, effort in trying to reduce that height or, lower that foundation to, try to accommodate.
So if I can just reiterate, the first recommendation would be modified to, instead of saying to not exceed the height of the existing building, but really to say that you are looking to minimize as much as possible and have a further review with one of the commission members and not need to come back to the permit review committee at a monthly meeting. And who would be the commission member that we can coordinate with?
Who do it?
Sure, I'll do it.
Okay, Commissioner Rubin. We will modify the recommendation then to say that.
Okay, so we have a modified recommendation on the table.
So moved. Or I would like to make the
Recommended by
recommend.
Commissioner Rubin.
I would like to make a motion to ask for the modification. Is there anything else I need to be saying here?
Okay,
Okay. Amen.
yes, seconded by Commissioner Fair. Commissioner Ponce is a yes, and I'm a yes as well.
Thank you.
Modified motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, great project. I'm locked out of my computer. Thank you, Commissioners. Moving to project number 2, 1032 West Fulton Market in the 27th Ward, Alderman Burnett, Fulton Randolph Market District. The proposed installation of a new halo lit 13-foot 5-inch by 2-foot-6 sign on the east parapet, and one 5-foot by 3-foot blade sign on each of the south and east elevations. And I'd like to call on Tyler Taylor for the presentation.
Thank you. Good afternoon. This project is for 1032 West Fulton Market. It is a 3-story masonry building. It's contributing to the Fulton Randolph district, and it is located on the northwest corner of West Fulton Market and North Carpenter. The building was designed by architect Jacob Brodotz and built in 1905 as a warehouse for Fred C. Beeson, a veneer importer and dealer. It will soon be occupied as showrooms and offices for Allermuir, a furniture company. A proposal has been received for new signage on the building, which includes a sign at the parapet and 2 blade signs above the first floor storefronts. Due to its height above grade, the proposed parapet sign requires a council order and review by this committee. The sign would be mounted with its top at 40-foot 9 inches above grade at the south end of the east elevation facing towards North Carpenter. The proposed sign is 13-foot 5 inches in width by 2-foot 6 inches overall in height, and composed of individual white aluminum letters with 3-inch returns mounted on a single raceway. The letters are proposed to be individually halo lit using white LEDs, which is consistent with the signage standards of the district and other parapet signs that have been approved in the past. The proposed raceway is 5 inches in height, would project approximately 4 inches from the face of the brick, and is finished to match the color of the masonry. The use of the raceway is appropriate as it will reduce the number of attachment points required to mount the sign to the historic masonry. The raceway should be mounted to the brick at mortar joints only, and a note or detail stating this should be included on the permit drawings when submitted. Staff recommends the size and location of the parapet sign is proportional to the building and will not damage or obscure any of the decorative brickwork. Several parapet signs have been approved in the district, including those at 320 North Morgan, 155 North Carpenter, which was approved earlier this year, and 226 North Morgan. The proposed sign for Allermuir is consistent with the proportions and placing of these prior approvals. In addition to the parapet sign, 2 blade signs are proposed above the first floor storefronts, one on each elevation. These signs are both identical, 5 feet in width, 3 feet in height, and 8 inches thick. Staff recommend the lettering, design, and illumination of both signs is consistent with the Commission's adopted guidelines and standards for signage broadly and the guidelines for the district. The signs are proposed to be mounted at the top 17 foot 7 inches above grade. The proposed location of both signs is on the masonry piers between window displays and would not damage or obscure any decorative features. However, staff recommends their size and height above grade is out of scale with the building. Since a parapet sign is also proposed, it is possible to lower these signs, and it is possible to lower these signs without affecting any decorative features. Both signs should be scaled down so they are no wider than 4 feet in width, and they should also be mounted lower so the top of the signs do not extend significantly above the top of the first floor storefronts. For all three proposed signs, all electrical components, including conduit, junction boxes, and transformers, should be concealed, and a note stating this should be added to the permit drawings. Staff recommends that with this condition and the others already noted and shown above, the approval of the proposed signs will not have an adverse effect on the building. Alderman Burnett has received the proposal and is in support. The West Loop Community Organization also received the proposal and has no objection. Scott Fugino is here representing the sign contractor and is available to answer your questions.
All right. Thank you, Tyler. Any questions for Tyler before we hear from the applicant?
Just one clarification, but the south elevation blade sign, it looks like in the drawing, there's, I don't know, like a cable connection, are the,
It's a cable for an awning in the background, but
okay,
from
so
that angle, it looks
not a
like-
part of
yeah.
that blade sign. Got it.
And I should also mention, the applicants already agreed to these conditions. We just haven't received modified exhibits yet. So we're still showing you what we have.
That's great. All right, well, let's, if they'd like to make a statement, let's hear from the project representatives. Hi there.
Scott Fugino with PSCO Kiefer, the sign company. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do.
You all, any comments about the project? You all are in agreement with the recommendation?
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
in agreement with the recommendations. I have drawings that outline the changes to the size of the blade signs. Just,
All right,
haven't
great.
forwarded them on.
Thank you.
all right.
Public comments, there is no one signed up to speak on this item. So final discussion, commissioners. Seeing no one wishing to make a comment. Let's go. Does anyone want to make a motion on the staff recommendation? So moved by Commissioner Fair, second by Commissioner Ponce, and Commissioner Rubin is a yes, and I'm a yes. The motion carries unanimously. Congratulations. Thank you. All right, last project on our agenda today, 2609 West Logan and the First Ward, Logan Square Boulevard districts again. Proposed exterior and interior renovations, including construction of a new rear addition and new dormers. And I'd like to call on Joyce Ramos for the staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The property is located mid-block on the south side of Logan Boulevard between Talman and Maplewood Avenues. The building is a 1.5-story frame, single-family home constructed circa 1880s. The historic photo at left, taken after construction, shows the original wood window locations and ornamental window hoods, as well as the original dormer on the east elevation. According to the Sanborn maps on the right, an open front porch and bay windows were added sometime between 1896 and 1921, which was within the period of significance. This is how the house looks today. In the first two photos, you can see the historic dormer on the east elevation. The photos also show the front porch that was enclosed sometime after the period of significance with vinyl siding and a concrete block base. Inside the enclosure, as seen on the photo at right, the location of the front entrance and bay windows remain. The exterior has been reclad with non-historic siding. The applicant is proposing to add dormers on both elevations, both side elevations, as well as a new addition at the rear. The shed dormer on the east elevation is proposed to be located directly behind a historic gable dormer. It will not be visible from the public way since the historic dormer and adjacent building blocks its view. The rear addition will match the width of the house and the shape of the existing roof and will be no higher or wider than the historic house. And staff recommend approval of the rear addition as proposed. The new gabled dormer on the west elevation will be located on the opposite side of the historic dormer and matches its setback from the front facade. The roof of this dormer will be 1 foot lower than the main ridge of the historic dormer, and the ridge of the historic dormer, I'm sorry. This will differentiate it from the historic, but will be compatible with the massing, size, scale, and architectural features of the house. Similar to the east dormer, the face of the gable will continue and align with the side elevation below. A new shed dormer is proposed to be constructed directly behind the new gable dormer. The applicant provided a rendering that evaluates the visibility of the new dormer on the west elevation. And just off to the side of the house, you will see the new gable dormer from the sidewalk, but the shed dormer behind is screened by the adjacent property. Since the building historically had a dormer on the east elevation, this new dormer is compatible with the historic character of the building. The new dormers are located towards the rear of the building and are below the ridge height of the historic building and will be minimally visible. Staff recommend approval of the size and location of the proposed new dormers and that the shed dormers be clad with wood or fiber cement siding in a smooth finish and in a color to match the roofing material to further minimize visibility. Additional work to the house includes the removal of the non-historic walls that currently enclose the front porch in order to return it to an open porch. The existing roll roofing over the porch will be replaced with new asphalt shingles, and the soffit and fascia will be replaced. The existing porch columns, stairs, handrail, and newel posts will remain and be cleaned and repainted, and a new 42-inch high railing will be installed along the perimeter of the porch. The painted concrete block base is proposed to be clad with a thin brick that resembles a masonry base, and staff will be recommending that a sample of the panel brick be provided and section details that show the methods of attachment to be included with the permit drawings. The owner made investigative openings to the non-historic siding that revealed that the historic wood siding underneath is deteriorated and portions are missing. So to more accurately assess the condition of the historic siding, the non-historic siding in the front facade should be removed to reveal the historic siding underneath. And if damaged beyond repair, it should be replaced with new wood siding that matches the historic in size, profile, and lap exposure. Other work includes replacing the existing windows with new clad wood windows and the decorative wood head trim that still exists above the gang double hung windows on the second floor will be salvaged and reinstalled. Staff recommend that the windows be wood or clad wood and that enlarged section details be submitted with the permit plans. And finally, the existing pitched roof will be replaced with new asphalt shingles. Alderman Laspada has reviewed the project and has no objection, and that concludes my presentation. The architect, the property owner and the contractor are also here, so please let us know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Joyce. Commissioners, any questions for Joyce? Seeing none, let's hear from the property owner.
Hi, I'm Darcy. I'm the property owner. I've lived in Logan Square for 10 years. I'm currently on Humboldt Boulevard, which is also another historic boulevard, so I'm kind of familiar with this. We have been looking for about 5-6 years for a home for our family, and when this came on the market, I'm originally from New England, so it reminded me kind of my home growing up. So that is what basically made us want to purchase this property and make it a forever home for us and our daughter. We are going to comply with all the staff recommendations. We really don't have anything other than hope for approval so we can start the project and not have 2 mortgages anymore.
All right, well, thank you. Congratulations on your home. And commissioners, any questions? Seeing none, let's go to public comment then. And we have Mr. Ward Miller who signed to speak today.
Good afternoon once again, Commissioners. Ward Miller, Richard H. Driehaus, Executive Director of Preservation Chicago. As I mentioned previously, we were very much involved in the creation of the Landmark District here in Logan Square and the Logan Boulevard's Landmark District. From its initial conceiving this and through 5 years and 2 alder people to reality 20 years ago. We're very proud of that. There are a lot of buildings that were considered non-contributing to the district that had been remodeled or had facades, siding and whatnot added to the building or had been significantly changed. And we realized that this is one of the oldest structures in the district and really support this in a huge way. This is moving forward and restoring a building that unfortunately had this enclosed porch. We're really excited to see the original siding or a replacement siding added onto the building. So we very much support this at Preservation Chicago. And also, I am a neighbor of this building about 5 blocks, 6 blocks to the west. And I see this building every day. We've always wanted to see the hoods replaced. You saw that at the second floor. It would be wonderful if the owner would also consider replacing those under the porch ceiling, because they're just such beautiful details. They're so beautifully crafted. But we're really 100% in support of this. Wanted to share that with you. We're in support of not only the restoration of the facade, but also the addition to the house, because these buildings as landmarks have to work. And we want them to be occupied buildings, unlike the last one that we saw. We want them to be contributing buildings now and forever. And these are really wonderful commitments to our community. And we will have a long-term family continue to occupy this building, which will contribute to a better community as a whole when we can keep our families and long-term stakeholders in our community. So thank you.
No, thank you, Mr. Miller. Commissioners, well, actually, no one else has signed up to speak, so we'll move to discussion, final discussion. Any final discussion, commissioners? Seeing none, I just want to say it's a great project, and love to see the bay restored and the front elevation restored, and echoing the sentiments of the public comments. Does anyone have a motion? So moved, Commissioner Ponce. Seconded by Commissioner Rubin. Commissioner Fair?
Yes.
Yes, I'm a yes. Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations. All right. So that brings us to adjournment. There's no further business. I'd like to request a motion to adjourn. Commissioners have all said
Yes.
yes. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.